The 2018 iPad Pro was undeniably ahead of its time when it was released 7 years ago, with hardware that leaves very little to be desired and is arguably what set the precedent for what iPad design has been ever since. In this video, we're going to evaluate the 2018 iPad Pro's user experience and value proposition in 2025. And with Apple's massive iPadOS 26 update just a few weeks away, this iPad just got a whole lot more interesting, which we'll talk about in just a bit. So as I mentioned, the hardware on this iPad is pretty close to perfect, with its beautiful 120Hz ProMotion LCD display with very thin bezels and its ultra thin and light design with the current style squared off edge design. This was actually the very first iPad to feature this squared off design language, which has since been adopted by the entire iPad lineup. So this iPad still looks and feels brand new. And with Apple's upcoming iPadOS 26 update, Apple is finally delivering a lot of the most requested features from users that want to use their iPads as a full computer replacement. iPadOS 26 supports fully adjustable windowed multitasking like macOS. You also get the macOS-like traffic light controls and app toolbars. You're even able to place folders from the Files app right in the dock, and you even get a proper mouse pointer when using trackpad and keyboard accessories and more. iPadOS has always been fine for most iPad users who just want to casually browse the web, consume some content, and maybe get a little bit of work done. But it's always lacked these computer-esque productivity features other than very limited split-screen multitasking functionality until now with iPadOS 26. And to my surprise, all these new iPadOS 26 features are fully available on the 2018 iPad Pro here. I was very pleasantly surprised to see this, as Apple could have easily restricted these multitasking features to their latest iPads with maybe M series and newer, but they didn't. It's fully supported on the 2018 iPad Pro here, powered by the 7-year-old A12X processor with 4 gigs of RAM. The only restriction for the 2018 iPad Pro here on iPadOS 26 is that you can only interact with 4 windowed applications at once. Other open applications will be grayed out. You can of course tap on one of the grayed out applications and then it'll switch to another set of 4 apps that you're able to interact with at once. But other than that, you get the full iPadOS 26 experience. And I have mixed feelings about this, as on one hand, it's pretty frustrating that this iPad has clearly been capable of fully windowed multitasking from day one, and it took Apple 7 years to finally add that capability. But on the other hand, I suppose it's also impressive that Apple is still fully supporting a 7-year-old iPad with their latest multitasking features. And guys, one of my most common use cases for my iPad is taking and viewing notes. And today's sponsor, Paperlike, makes that experience so much better. The Paperlike screen protector gives you the feel of premium paper when writing or drawing on your iPad using an Apple Pencil. It uses advanced nanodots technology to mimic the tactile feedback of a pencil on high-quality paper. Not only does it feel so much more natural and familiar, but I've also noticed that my handwriting and notes have been considerably neater after I started using the Paperlike screen protector, because it provides just the right amount of friction that I'm used to with a pencil and paper. The Paperlike iPad screen protector also almost entirely eliminates light refraction and glare while maintaining great display clarity. It's only 0.095 millimeters thick, which ensures Apple Pencil responsiveness. And Paperlike's advanced nanodots technology is soft enough to reduce wear and tear on your Apple Pencil tip, extending its lifespan for longer lasting use. So guys, if you want to take your iPad's digital writing or drawing experience to the next level, click on the link in the video description down below to check out the Paperlike iPad screen protector. And huge thank you to Paperlike for sponsoring this video. And beyond just the multitasking features, the 2018 iPad Pro also gets all the other new features coming across Apple's new 2026 OSs in iPadOS 26, like the new liquid glass design that has UI elements across the system that take on the visual properties of glass, with dynamic light refraction and elements within applications that float and are less obtrusive, making your content more immersive. You get custom message backgrounds and all the other nice quality of life improvements, like custom snooze times for alarms, and so much more. So circling back to hardware for a second, we have one rear-facing 12 megapixel lens that's totally fine for occasional use. It can even capture up to 4K 60 frames per second video. And we also, of course, have a 7 megapixel front-facing camera as well, which is probably going to be the more commonly used camera for iPad users. Now, the quality isn't great, but it's passable enough. but the most frustrating thing is that the camera is located on the top bezel, oriented in portrait mode. And with an iPad Pro, chances are you'll be doing video calls in landscape mode. So as a result, when in landscape mode doing video calls, you kind of always look like you're looking to the side because the camera is on one side of the device, not centered in landscape mode the way that it should be. So that's definitely frustrating on especially an iPad Pro, but thankfully Apple fixed this in later versions of the iPad, but unfortunately this is just a drawback of the 2018 iPad Pro here. And one of the nicer things about this iPad, especially considering its age, is that it has USB-C. The 2018 iPad Pro was actually the very first iPad or iPhone to feature USB-C over Lightning, and it took quite a long time and some pressure from the EU for Apple to finally unify switching to USB-C across all their products. This also contributing to the 2018 iPad Pro here feeling very current here in 2025. And even though I know no one prioritizes it, it's worth noting that the 2018 iPad Pro here does not support Apple Intelligence, as Apple Intelligence is only supported on iPads with an M1 or A17 chip and newer, which the 7-year-old A12X chip powering the 2018 iPad Pro falls quite short of. Apple Intelligence being Apple's set of AI features that they've been rolling out throughout the last year into all their software platforms that include writing tools, image and emoji generation, ChatGPT integration within Siri, visual lookup AI, and similar features. However, as we've all discovered throughout the rollout, these features are frankly just not very useful and are inferior versions of the same capabilities that you could get from competing products like ChatGPT, Google Gemini, which are all applications that you can just download from the App Store and use on any iPad, like the 2018 iPad Pro here. Not to mention that Apple has failed to deliver on the personal context component of Apple Intelligence, which was one of the most highly anticipated features of Apple Intelligence, and it's still just delayed until further notice. So, to say the least, you're not going to be missing out without Apple Intelligence on the 2018 iPad Pro here. Again, especially considering that you can just download the much better competing AI applications and use them on the 2018 iPad Pro here. So all this being said, the 2018 iPad Pro still very much provides a solid experience here in 2025. And if you currently have one, it's got at least a few more years of solid usability left in its future. As even if Apple drops support for this iPad with iPadOS 27 next year, you'll still be able to use it on its last remaining iOS version for years with security updates, as Apple still provides essential security updates to unsupported devices for years after they get cut. But this being said, if you're in the market for a used iPad, I wouldn't recommend buying the 2018 iPad Pro here in 2025, as it only has one, maybe two, if you're lucky, years of major iPadOS update support in its future. I mean, you have to remember that the 2018 iPad Pro here is going into its 8th major iPadOS update with iPadOS 26, making it one of the longest supported iPads ever. So while it's possible you might get another year of major iOS update support next year with iPadOS 27, I certainly wouldn't count on it. If you're in the market for a used iPad Pro, if you can afford it, I'd highly recommend at least going for an M1 or M2 chip iPad Pro, which will cost you a couple extra $100, but it's going to get you a device with a lot more processing power and longevity in terms of years of future major iPadOS update support. But at the end of the day, the hardware on this iPad feels like it hasn't aged a day, and Apple is still rolling out their latest software with all these complex multitasking features to this iPad, which again, I think is pretty impressive in and of itself. So let me know your guys' thoughts down below in the comments. Thank you all so much for watching, and of course, as always, I'll catch you in the next one.